Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was directed by Quentin Tarantino and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie. The movie revolves around Rick Dalton, a fading television star played by DiCaprio, and Cliff Booth, his stunt double, played by Brad Pitt. And how Hollywood is slowly starting to cast them aside, where we see Hollywood becoming a glimmer of hope and fame for very sweet and innocent Sharon Tate, played by Margot Robbie. Let me start off by saying I'll have a spoiler-free review at first, and then a spoiler review to follow. I would also like to add that our next episode, episode 13, is dropping tomorrow, Wednesday, August 7th, where we will also review Hobbs and Shaw, give live trailer reactions from the past week, talk about a brand new giveaway that could get you free movie tickets. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Cinema4Real and Twitter at SunsReal to be up to date on all episodes and movie news. This is my movie of the year. This will probably end up being my favorite Tarantino film. It still needs to kind of sit in and kind of take it all in. But it's not a film for everyone, especially those who are not familiar with Tarantino's work. The almost 3-hour runtime, the movie flew by for me, though. I was hooked for every single second of the movie and captivated by the dialogue in every scene, which Tarantino proves he is the master of dialogue. The performances across the board were great. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people were talking about Brad Pitt's performance, but for me, Leo stood out. He gives what I think is the best performance of his career. He captures such a wide range of emotions. I was dying from laughter during one scene, and then right after that, I would just suddenly just kind of be mesmerized by what he was going through. Like, really feel for what he was going through as a fading actor. Like I said, this movie is not for everyone, but to put it simply, it's really just a bunch of people going on with their day and talking to one another with brief flashbacks from here to there with not a whole lot of plot development, but a lot of character development. But that's the genius behind the movie for me, was that Tarantino was able to captivate my attention for so long with strictly people just talking to each other and just kind of hanging out. It really reminded me of why I love movies so much, and he fused in other parts that really got me to love the film, like the soundtrack, the colors, and the production design. I felt like I was in 1969. I felt like I was in Hollywood. I felt like I was immersed in that culture. But as these characters are going through their daily routines, which are hilarious and heartfelt at times, there is a lingering tension in the background that is the Manson family. We've seen Tarantino play with history in his movie Inglourious Basterds, and he does it again with this movie too. There's a scene that involves a ranch that I'll go into detail in the spoiler section that was incredibly tense. And that's the thing with Tarantino. No character is safe, and I felt extremely anxious anytime certain characters came on the screen. That's all I'll say. The homages to 1960s cinema was hilarious, especially a certain scene that involves Timothy Olyphant and Leo's characters, and I was just sitting there waiting for the punchline. It drags out a little bit, but that's what makes it. The reward is totally worth it. But it is a comedy. This movie is a comedy, if I had to put it in a genre. But it's a comedy that's done the right way. Yes, there are certain scenes that are pretty outrageous, but it's all done naturally and amongst the characters' quirks and arcs. None of it felt forced like a lot of comedies today. But the comedy combined with the emotional duress that Rick Dalton is under and the tension building in the background of the Manson family makes this one of the best movies of the year and a refreshing, original story in the midst of all the superhero craziness that's going on. I'm going to give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a 9.3 out of 10, my highest rating of the year. To kick off spoiler discussion, I want to talk about some of my favorite scenes. The Bruce Lee scene definitely stood out. Mike Moe did a terrific job. I know there's some kind of controversy about how they portrayed Bruce Lee, but I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Brad Pitt and Bruce Lee end up fighting, and it makes, whenever he throws him in the car, absolutely love that. And then Randy comes back. And my favorite part about that whole sequence is that it's kind of a longer sequence, and you almost kind of forget it's a flashback. And then it cuts back to Brad Pitt on the roof smoking a cigarette, fixing the TV, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, that's why. That's why I didn't get the job." Absolutely love that scene. I really like the ranch scene. Whenever Brad Pitt picks up Pussycat and drives her to the Spawn movie ranch, to kind of, that's where the Manson family lives, and the second he gets out of the car and you just see this living condition that they're all in, and the hippies come out of the house and they're just watching him. No music at all, no score, and it's tense. Especially if you've seen a lot of Tarantino films, you just know that no one's safe. He could have been blown away at any minute, and whenever he walks, he eventually he kind of meets some people. Austin Butler, who plays Tex, comes down, checks him out. And Brad Pitt's just, being cooler than cool. He makes his way to kind of the main house where George lives, played by Bruce Dern. And whenever he and Dakota Fanning are talking, there's kind of that weird cinematography with like that lower angle shots of them. I mean, you feel on edge. The whole sequence itself, nothing feels right at all about any of it. And it eventually ends up with him kind of leaving, and one of the guys slashes tires, so he beats the crap out of him, makes him bloodies his nose, breaks a tooth, breaks his nose, and makes him put the tire back on. Absolutely love that. Also love the scene whenever Leo he's going to the set, and he has to sit next to this little girl. He's reading her lines. She's trying to stay in character, and I love. I'll go into that here in a little bit. The kind of side-by-side comparison of where they're at in their careers. You have this young, very, very young girl who's just kind of grown up, and they're talking, and she asks him about the book he's reading, and he slowly comes to terms with how, like, the parallels between him and his own life, and he starts breaking down. And then we go, and it kind of films like a movie within a movie. So they're shooting this pilot episode for the Lancer TV show. And it's filmed like not in black and white like some of the earlier scenes are, but and then there's just a super long take. Everything's going right, and then right whenever Leo he forgets his line, and we see him practicing his lines early in the movie, which is perfectly kind of full circle right there. And he forgets one of his lines, and honestly, it was probably about that scene where I kind of thought to myself, this is it. This is the best performance that Leo's ever given. And it was hilarious. You felt for him. It didn't feel like I was watching Leonardo DiCaprio. It felt like I was watching fading television star Rick Dalton. And I absolutely loved every minute of it. The movie, I also loved, speaking of full circle, the flamethrower completely came full circle. Maybe one of the best movie endings I've ever seen. He goes from frying sauerkraut to frying the Manson family with the flamethrower. And if I heard somewhere online that the flamethrower is actually in the tool shed that Brad Pitt goes to earlier in the film to fix the TV antenna. But absolutely love that scene. Not only did the flamethrower come full circle, as well did the acid dip cigarette, which was absolutely perfect. That was the scene where Brad Pitt solidified himself as a potential supporting role nomination. So yeah, those were some of my favorite scenes. The movie itself, like I said earlier in my spoiler-free review, there's no real plot to the movie, which I think that's kind of the main line that will push people away from the movie. Tarantino realizes the potential arcs in all of these characters. And what he does is explore the parallels between kind of the fictitious part, so like Rick Dalton, Cliff Booth, and then obviously with Sharon Tate. And right off the bat, we see that. We see Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski walking through. They're kind of like being photographed, paparazzi surrounding them. They're kind of the hit new thing. And Cliff Booth is just walking, or Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth are just kind of in a bar hanging out. No one's really talking to them or recognizing them. And it comes full circle because at the very end, earlier on in the film, he realizes, like, hey, Sharon Tate and Roman are back. They're my neighbor. Like, they're some of the hottest actors and directors in Hollywood. But we know they never meet throughout the whole movie until the very, very end. He comes back from Italy after doing spaghetti westerns. And he's back with a Italian wife, and he even kind of has his hair kind of like Polanski's from the beginning. And there's kind of like that same parallel with Rick kind of becoming a bigger star. You have paparazzi taking pictures of him and stuff like that, but he's still kind of realizing like he doesn't know what his next move is. He doesn't know what to do next. He's back in America. He's been making these, I think it was about 5 spaghetti western films. So what's he going to do now that he's back stateside? And that's whenever the end of a partnership comes with him and Brad Pitt's character. Kind of, he can't afford Cliff Booth to kind of, which that's the other part. I said stunt double, which he is, but he doesn't do any stunting throughout the movie. But other than a flashback, and then he kind of hops up to go fix the TV. But he's just helping Leo out. He's doing stuff around the house. He's picking him up. He's driving him. And the chemistry between the two were perfect. I can't believe this is their first movie they've done together. But the chemistry between the two was absolutely phenomenal. And you could really feel, especially that ending scene whenever Brad Pitt, he gets stabbed and he has to get picked up and taken to the hospital. And Leo really feels for him and talks about, like, hey, Cliff, like, you're a good guy. You're a good friend. And that scene right there, and then obviously there's another scene whenever they're just, this is another part of the genius of Tarantino, is the two of them just watching Cliff's FBI episode, and they're just laughing, talking it up like buddies, and the chemistry between the two is definitely there, and absolutely loved it. So that is my review for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Give it a 9.3 out of 10. Absolutely loved the movie, original story, great performances. Be sure to check out episode 13 on iTunes and Spotify, as well as stay tuned following us on Twitter at SunsReel, REEL, and Instagram at Cinema for Real, REEL. And we'll be having a giveaway coming up soon, so make sure you listen, stay up to date to see how you can win free movie tickets. Keep it real, guys.